I guess we're good to record. Do you know where these get uploaded, or are they on Unfiltered?
So did you do record or record in the cloud?
I did record on my computer.
Okay, so I think it's a manual process.
That's fine. I figured I'll ask Paul later. So.
Yeah, Paul, no.
You'll know. But okay, let me get the MR up. I can tell you right now, I have no recollection of what we talked about last time. So
I'm sure it'll all come
flooding
back. So the couple of things I'll try and reintroduce and also preempt, which if I was a little bit more prepared, if I hadn't just come off another pairing session, I would have updated the MR description a little bit and preempted and put a few comments on it myself. So there's definitely a few specs that it's missing. So I think we'll identify those for sure. But the merge request, a piece of work specifically was around adding quick actions. So whole customer relationship management CRM work that I've been focusing my time on the last couple of months is making good headway. We now have lots of GraphQL endpoints and some services to allow you to create contacts, update contacts, attach contacts to issues, all that kind of greatness. But you have no way through the GitLab UI to attach contacts to issues or remove contacts from issues for that matter. So this is, and I'm now starting to think maybe it wasn't with you, or I might have spoken to you guys about some of this, but my brain is absolutely fried. It might have actually been on the front end pairing session because I was initially thinking about making a sidebar component and thinking this was going to be more like a view component, etc. And then off the back of a conversation, we decided the easiest way, the quickest, smallest iteration to be able to add the functionality to add and remove contacts from an issue would be to create a new quick action. So this merge request introduces two new quick actions, one to add contacts to an issue and one to remove contacts from an issue.
I think we discussed some of this because I seem to remember, I think there was another engineer on the phone and we were talking about where to put the where clauses.
That's right. Forgive me if I mispronounce, but Alina or Alina?
I think it's Alina that was on, yeah.
So would you, are you happy to still, do you want to share your screen and go through your process, how you would, or is that too much pressure?
We can do that, that's fine. Peter, I'd be happy to have you do the review with me if you want. I did have a cup of coffee this morning, which is not normal for me, so maybe I'll be a little bit more awake.
Sure. I'm happy to help.
Okay.
So actually, we have also got another cool one that we could talk about because as part of this MR, I broke some things. I found that there were a lot of references in the issue actions to quick action target .project. So I tried to dry that up by creating a method for project, an alias or method or whatever you want to call it. And it turns out that there's some kind of collision. So we could look at that afterwards. That would be pretty cool as well.
Yeah, that would definitely be my first comment. Is there are failing specs that look related?
Yep. So I've cancelled the pipeline, but I've fixed. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I know you don't want to just take my word for it. So, but we'll definitely talk about that afterwards because yeah, I tried to dry things up because I thought it seemed crazy everywhere to keep referencing quick action target .project .this. So yeah. But
I will
it
say, yeah, that
appears,
definitely is something that I would look at first. A lot of the times when I do reviews is I go and look at the issue to see if there's like a ton of detail in there. I know you gave us the background, so I might not do that, but I'm just gonna open up the issue anyway, so I can have it reference. Let's look at the code. Can you see my screen?
we can indeed.
Okay, perfect.
So let me, and yeah.
I think this is maybe what we were discussing last time is like whether these should be
Scopes or,
or
yeah,
class
exactly. So
methods. And
no,
I
that's,
thought the where we landed was because of the pluck that it would be class method.
that's a really good place to start, to be honest. Peter, do you have thoughts? Does this look like a sort of good approach, a good place for this to live, or?
Yeah, let me. Good place to live for this method in general.
Yeah, so initially, as I was, I don't know what, if you have a lovely technical term for brain dumping, kind of pseudo coding, whatever. Initially, this lived in a service. It was just calling like customer relations contact dot where dot pluck. Clearly, that breaks a few of our best practices or rubric ops or whatever you want to call it. So moving it to an active model or an active record or whatever the brilliant term is was the suggestion, the sort of logical way forward. But I think there's a few different, and it could be a scope or it could be a method and it could be potentially an instance method or it could be so yeah, that's the sort of,
or a finder. So usually we try to put like query logic into finders nowadays. So it's basically kind of service, but for querying data. So, but I think it's fine to start with the model for now.
okay, brilliant.
But
And
if we
have a
find ourselves
similar
having a lot of functionality inside the model, like querying data, I would consider like thinking about
so if we did a finder out of interest, do you just have to disable the rubric op stuff, or does it understand, does it allow you to do query logic like your wheres and stuff inside a finder?
Yeah, I think the COP is actually configured this way that it allows to do certain amount of active record API being used within finders and models. I think it is. Let me.
Yeah, I feel like I don't remember seeing those like comments that disable the cops in the finders.
It wouldn't make sense because it looked like we were sort of violating and hacking around it. So yeah, it makes sense that it excludes.
Yeah, I guess if you're finding you're coming back in here and adding more of these into these methods. Right now, I think these are the only two that exist.
Yep. Yeah, I believe so.
So I'm not sure it's worthwhile to go through the process of adding.
Yeah, no, I think right now it's fine. The second question I would have for this method in particular would be, okay, where do we want to use the IDs? Because I remember a guideline being updated about trying to avoid plug in certain situations, because we could use if you use the objects, active record could in certain situations use a subquery, which is more performant. But let me try this one. I'm not suggesting it right now, but this is like my thought process during the review, like having at least a mental question mark for me. Okay, let's review the docs or our guidelines,
right,
and let's try to check whether we should maybe avoid using plug in this this scenario. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not suggesting it. Just
no, I'm definitely reading to see what.
So basically, I was actually, while skimming the code, I was already trying to understand the service code and try to figure out whether the IDs is being used in a way where we actually should avoid plug. So where active record automatically would create a subselect for us.
I see what you're saying. So we could run one select and insert together rather than a separate select and a separate insert.
Yeah, exactly.
My gut is telling me that like I'm thinking n+1 and that sort of thing, but I guess every little helps to some extent. But yeah, I don't feel like that's a huge concern in this instance, but I'm open to.
So to quote the guidelines, and actually it was new for me for a couple of weeks ago after coming back from parental leave. So when using plug, sometimes it's not unnecessary to allocate this amount of memory. If we can avoid it, we should avoid it. So it seems it's better to create a single query using a subquery as instead of doing two queries, fetching IDs for the first query and use the same IDs for the second query. And the amount of memory being allocated, so for instance, for a huge amount of IDs could be significant to allocate a lot of memory for those IDs. This is, I think, the main argument to avoid plug in certain situations. Again, I'm not sure if it applies to the.
Perhaps that's something that I tell you what I'll do is I'll add a comment now to the MR to sort of say, like we're thinking about this so we don't forget about it, but we'll continue going through and we'll see when we kind of come full circle if we make a decision.
Okay.
But I didn't want to interrupt the flow, so sorry, Terry.
Oh no, that's fine. I was looking for the I wasn't able to find it, so thank you for sharing the link in the chat. So I will move on to the service. So it looks like we're grabbing existing contact.
Yeah, so I'm going to avoid, like, feel free to tell me this is wrong, but I'll avoid saying anything because I think the beauty of this is that if it's not self-explanatory, then there's something not great about the code. So I'll let you.
No worries. If we want to add this here in context email, remove context email if we want to remove. Up and out. I guess we're working through these one by one.
Yeah, so we could potentially, I think that's where the whole plugin stuff maybe comes in. It may well be that we could optimize and write some more raw SQL or like some bulk insert technique. But I guess more than anything, we would lose this validation that occurs when we manually, or not manually, when we try and
individually.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess my only wonder here is kind of on the same line as maybe what Peter was saying, is if there's a lot of IDs, could that cause a problem?
Did you see the very first change at the top of this service?
Not this one. This one?
Oh, do you know what? It wasn't. I did it before and I completely forgot it. But on line 7 there, we've actually got a max.
Okay, there's max. Okay.
I thought it was a change here, forgive me, but I included that in the last MR. So yeah, with the maximum, I guess that somewhat alleviates that concern.
So, okay. Too many, like you can't add more than 6.
Yeah, because I don't know what they call it, like a denial of service or an attack vector, or
yeah. If you let people do things, they will do them. That's all. I don't know. I feel like that's from their back end perspective. If you let people do things, they just do them because there's no. Of course, it's allowed, so I'll do it. But okay, so that's kind of that concern there. And that's already like happening, right? Is this behind a feature flag or anything, or is it?
Yep,
okay.
It is indeed.
So it's not being used right now. Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe we could add a label to feature flag.
Yeah.
To the merge request. So I tend to use it. I'm not sure if it's the real intent of the label, but I tend to use it wherever I introduce, remove, or actually keep using a feature flag or developing a feature behind the feature flag.
Yeah, or at least throw something. I know you probably don't, this isn't quite ready for like the review, but I would at least put in the description, like this is behind a feature flag, so that
so what I try and normally do is on the steps I would put on the recreation or how to test, I would put like enable the feature flag, create some contacts like this, and post some sort of code to actually create some contacts, and then
I've got a question about about the maximum amount of contracts to be added. So how do we communicate with the user that they are only allowed to add 6?
Oh, in the UI or just in general?
Yeah, right.
So you'll see that there is an, or at least I thought there was an error, but maybe I've messed up when I've resolved my conflict somewhere. There should. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
I might not have it exposed, so.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. Sorry, yeah. So error too many. So we do. That does get exposed. I think it would be a nice thing when we start writing docs. I guess we want to include it in the docs.
Do we? Is this error message being propagated to the UI actually? Just checking. So I was looking into the.
No, it's a very good point. It's a very bad at the moment. I basically say something went wrong or it was successful. So that's another really good one to discuss and understand. That's something I think, Terry, if your memory is a little bit better than mine, that we touched on to sort of say, like, as the first iteration, like, how good should we be really explicit and say, we added these people, we removed these people, or is it okay to just kind of say, oh, it worked or it didn't work, be quite vague. But you're right, like I'm happy if we sort of say, well, actually, if something went wrong, we do get a good error back from the back end, so why not just push that to the front end? We might need to talk about internationalization. I don't know what the thinking is there, but I'm happy to sort of
Yeah, these are good points, especially in this case. We already have the error message being compiled or used in the backend in the service.
Yeah.
And in the in the used code, in the quick action, we could it is actually as easy as using result.message in that case. So
yeah, so can I internationalize that by putting it between the brackets, or do I need to do something cleverer than that, or should I not internationalize it? Or
in that case I would do internationalize. So every content we display to users should be internationalized. Exceptions are, for example, rake task, error messages, something like that. I'm not sure we are doing that. But in this case, I would do it. The only trick we have to do is for the error too many message. We can't interpolate the constant here, but we need to do like the formatting stuff where we pass the max additional context as a format input. So not sure if you
I'm
know what
trying to
about.
understand how this would work. I think Terry,
I shared a link that has the Ruby files, and I think at the very bottom of the Ruby section, it says be careful when translating strings at the class or module level, since they're only evaluated at class time. So I think what Peter is saying, like the constant's not going to be there. I think the ones that are just straight strings, I think, are fine.
Yeah, right. And the last one online 87 or 125, big one. So this, I think this one we need to use. I'm not sure if it's documented actually.
So I think that's answered where I was getting a bit confused. So we have to do the internationalization in set CRM contact service. We can't do it in the issue actions. Gotcha.
Yeah, because these in the end they have to be static strings, which are actually passed by rake task in order to create the PO files or POT files or whatever. So we cannot do dynamic. You cannot do underscore braces and then a dynamic string. It doesn't work. It has to be a static string. Yeah, dynamic string meaning passing a variable. You cannot do that.
Okay, so go on.
I just found the format stuff. It's actually this very same page Terry shared, but another section speaking about how to actually format, doing formatting. So it's the same. It's not as complicated in this example, but it's actually using. We have even interpolation. So okay, interpolation is different, right? No, it's the same. Okay, yeah. Interpolation, it's section interpolation, it's even.
So
and yeah, you are right. We should do it where the actually messages, error messages or whatever are created or emitted. So it's sometimes a little bit weird to have it in a service, but you cannot do it dynamically.
So I think OB is something like this.
Yeah.
My spacing is going to be off, but something
Perfect.
like that.
Awesome.
I'll just add that as a comment so we don't lose it, and maybe throw this link in there.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Rather unrelated question. Why is message a list of strings? Just curious.
So I think this is maybe a topic of debate, point of contention, whatever you want to call it. And if I was a bit better prepared, I'd have an issue link or something for you. But there's seems to be this more relates, I think, to GraphQL than anything. And there's a bit of is it supposed to always be an array or a list of strings, a list of errors, a list of messages, or is it acceptable for it sometimes to be a string and sometimes to be a list of strings? And we were sort of erring on the side of, well, if it can sometimes be a list, let's always make it a list.
I fully agree on that. I'm not sure if it's the right place to create an array actually. So because when looking into the service code itself, you don't know the users. So from the service perspective, it only makes sense to return a single message, because we don't support multiple service responses. This is just one response. Well, it could in theory have multiple messages, but in this case it doesn't make really sense to return multiple messages. So if we want to have multiple messages in GraphQL, we should do it like on the GraphQL side. And I've seen some code doing this, right? Doing like 2A or something like that.
Yeah, do you know what? I could even, if I really had wanted to do this, I could have even updated the service response class itself. Because I think I've done this somewhere where if you call a method, I think it's just called array, the method, and you pass it either a string or an array, it will, if it's already an array, it won't do anything. If it's a string, it will add it to an array. So
not to confuse with array.wrap, which is a arrays method, which actually always wraps.
So even if it's already an array, it'll add it
so
to...
get an array, So not to confuse. Just saying, sorry. Yes, but again, this is like totally easy to get sidetracks on that. So
Yeah.
it's totally fine if we try to establish like a pattern where we actually want to return a list of messages always. Yeah, I feel this should be like very consistent across the database code base, because currently I've never seen that before. So
the example for the service response right now that I found in the docs, which is probably not the only spot it's used, but it only has one message. So that might be confusing.
So
I'm always asking, okay, if I ask questions, how many other folks will?
No, it's really good. And again, I'm going to add that now because I just want to make sure that even if I don't change it, that I find an issue and I reference that, or
if there is a discussion somewhere, that would be good to, like you said, that will be good to reference.
So doing a quick grab through our code base, I only see a couple of instances in the production code. Actually, one other instance which uses array or a list of messages, and a couple of in specs. I'm not sure I understand this one, but it may be something different related to some other behavior. I don't know. So it's a very new pattern, which is not good or not bad, but just stating the fact that it's not already being done, and I missed it for some reason. So, and as Terry mentioned, it is not mentioned in docs, and it's a good discussion to have, and a good problem to solve, to have multiple messages in GraphQL. And I've seen as you mentioned, the array stuff, array message wrapping somewhere, but yeah, I would be just curious in the review.
Absolutely, it's exactly, it's really helpful and what we're trying to achieve. So pop that on, and I'll definitely take a look at tweaking that.
and I know we're still on this page, but what's the code review? So it's probably a lot slower and more in depth than normal. These errors are when people are trying to add or remove too many contacts at once. I guess my question would be, so we are removing the existing contacts from what they've selected before we do the operation on that. Does that have any impact? Let's say like I select 10 contacts and 6 of them already exist and I want to add, and I say I want to add all 10. Should that be allowed? Because then technically it would only be 4. Does that make sense? Is that just like too crazy? I feel like that wouldn't be a good first iteration, but I think at some.
I think let me just have a look. I've got the service up here myself. I'm sure I have somewhere. That I think if you specifically say I want to add these 10, then not more for you. That's a bit harsh, but then tough. If you say I want to set the contacts on this issue to these 10, then it actually calls the method that determines, oh, there's already these 6 people on there, we're only adding 4, and it will allow it.
So there's because this is only going by the params. If you want,
but that's add. So if you follow the flow, so look at the determine changes method. That's probably the one that's really important here. So determine changes. If you don't,
you set them. Okay.
Yeah. So if you call this service, but instead of passing and saying I want to add these 5 people, instead you said set it equal to these 5 people, then it then sort of says, oh well, we've already got these 4 on, so we're only adding 1. And then that should be okay.
Do we need? That makes sense. I want to try to trace this through. I am slightly awake, but this is a rather large MR, so I probably would have waited to do this until the afternoon. This, I guess this line that's happening. So I'm going to trace this back up. So we have add contacts by ID. Walk here with this param, add contact ID, which I guess I'm wondering if is this line needed or is it already taken care of here when we're passing?
So,
or am I like completely reading that wrong?
Yeah. So what you can call this method in 3 different ways, or probably more than 3 different ways, but you can provide the parameter CRM contact IDs without a prefix of add or remove, and it's the same as adding labels. Actually, like on an issue labels, you can do add labels, remove labels, or you can just say labels. This is the same, and handle determine changes is only called if you say CRM contact IDs.
So that one is like it's setting these parameters that wouldn't be set if they just use that quick action. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen the code that handles any of the quick actions before. So this is good. Okay.
It's something that's I would like to see an improvement, a better pattern, because it does seem like a lot of code, a lot of jumping through hoops, quite a lot of I don't know what you want to call it. That should be quite. Feels like it should be simpler to do all these little like, oh well, we want to be able to add, remove, but we also want to be able to set or replace or whatever you want to call it, and all the kind of little bits and pieces of logic and checks that come along with that.
That makes sense. Okay, I don't have any other comments right off the bat of this. One thing I'm missing is I really like it when it has the little testing coverage thing, and I guess that's not on there because the pipeline didn't complete. I really do rely on that sometimes.
Oh, that's interesting.
It'll be green highlighted and red if it's not covered by testing, so that's really nice when we have it.
We'll probably look at the spec in a minute. I think that I've got good coverage on the service. What I haven't got any coverage on at the moment is the actual quick action itself. So I don't know that I've got any questions at this point in time. I think the onus is just on me to crack on and write a few. But I wanted to cycle back, forgive me if I'm breaking your trail of thought here, but I wanted to cycle back to that array thing that we were talking about. So what I have noticed is, and this might only be me that's doing this, it might not happen anywhere else, but I think that Peter, maybe you had a quick look to a bit of greppy action to see if you could see if we were ever calling service response error with an array. And I wonder if, because I can see in this set CRM contact service, at the moment, there's an instance where I'm passing it like the model errors. So I'm calling service response.error. If we want to visualize it all together, it's on line 32 of the service.
Wow, okay.
So that might be almost my answer when I actually take my brain away and try and look in hard and say, well, okay, this is a scenario where I'm returning an array. I think I could just call dot to sentence like I do in the thing above it. I don't know whether it's good or bad. In a way, I think an array might be better because something on the other end might be able to handle that better. I could be wrong though. It might be like, let's always return a string rather than let's always return an array. But I think that's probably what happened. I had that array coming back from that one and wanted to make sure that they all therefore returned an array.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually could look up other places where we are actually doing two sentence in those cases, because I remember from at least from our team reviewing some code and actually creating some code which exactly does two sentence or
yeah, I found one where they do a two sentence and
okay. Okay, maybe it is us. So
but I mean, it's one of those where like I think that it's great us having a little bit of to and fro, but I or one of us take away and sort of see if we can find an existing issue or share it in Slack and sort of see if then we can just improve the docs, right? And sort of explicitly say, do this or don't do this, or
yeah, especially if it like having an array would help actually, for example, presenting error messages in other places like GraphQL, as you mentioned, would be totally great to. And we should discuss how to realize that. So how actually to pass a list of messages. Should we use message, or should we find another way? Maybe some good way for service response to handle this one.
So maybe there's still just one message, but there's like an array of errors or an array of details or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
At this point we would need this place we would, or time and place we would need to think about legacy code as always. So so what if we change stuff, what impact do we have on, or unexpected impact even on in other places? That's a good one. So I just wanted to, before moving to another code or class, I just had a question about too many methods, or too many. we are checking. So too many is a composition of too many IDs. So if you go to the definition of a too many method,
Where, I'm sorry.
Line 104, that is, Terry.
sorry.
Oh,
So
okay. I thought you were saying there's too many methods.
Sorry.
I told you.
You could totally argue that. I'm for that, and I did go a bit crazy from the beginning. I'm not sure why I did it. I actually quite like this kind of super verbose way of splitting off little methods, but I don't know. Some people could be against it for sure.
No, I'm totally fine with that. Actually, it's not too many. I'm also preferring the very terse,
right in
very
English
terse methods. So yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, sorry, I was talking about the method too many question
Yes.
mark. So it checks too many IDs. This one we discussed, how it actually checks or validates or does the subtraction of existing IDs. Do we have a similar computation of contact emails, meaning subtracting the existing contact emails as well?
Not if I'm interpreting that correctly, because the quick actions available at the moment are just add and remove. There's no set available, if that makes sense. So my sort of understanding or expectation for this first iteration is that, if you want to, you will be very explicitly saying, right, okay, I already know who's on this issue. I want to add these ones, or I want to remove these ones, rather than it being, oh, I don't know who's on there, or I don't care who's on there. I want to change it, and all I want left is Dave.
Okay,
is that sort of
well, yeah, I'm not sure this answer. Well, maybe I do not understand the intent behind removing the existing contact ID from the contact ID list. We are doing it elsewhere. I think it was up. We are not doing the same stuff for email. So I'm wondering why. So if you go to the execute method, you'll see that, yeah, at line 16 we are fetching all existing contact IDs, and with that we are using this list to actually remove the existing ones from the past ones, right? So we don't have any duplicates. Are we doing this?
A very good point. Let's have a look. So
for example, if I use the quick action and add the same email address twice.
So so what happens is there's a couple of so add contacts by email wraps add contacts add contacts by ID, and add contacts by ID removes the existing ones. So the actual code does do that, but I didn't think it was worthwhile doing all of that effort before the check, because I don't know, I think I'm going to call it expensive. It might not be that expensive, but again, I'm sort of pushing the onus back onto the user to sort of say, well, we're limiting you to 6, and if you're gonna I don't want to be mean to the user, but if you're going to try and add 10 people, 7 of which are already on the issue anyway, then tough. Like if you need to go to the extra effort of looking at who's on the issue and just adding the ones that you actually want to add.
Okay, but you have like the specific use case of quick action in mind with your assumptions right now, right? So, but as far as I understand, this service could in theory and in the future could be used by other folks. So, or other places where the user maybe is not involved.
So so what we would do then, we would expose another method or another parameter, another argument. So where we've now got 5 on this method, so we've got CRM contact IDs, which is a replace operation. That's it. We've got add CRM contact IDs, which is a sort of append type operation. We've got remove CRM contact IDs, which is a remove action. We've then got add CRM contact emails, which is an append operation, and remove CRM contact emails, which is a remove. But we don't have a replace operation for emails because I'm not exposing a quick action to do that. I've not written the service method to do that. But if we, that's how we would achieve that. Does that help or?
Yeah, I was just by reading the code and maybe adding a code documentation to the execute method, which would be actually very helpful to. So
you're sort of almost reading it and saying, well, we currently do this for ID, so why don't we do it for emails? Is kind of
This is one question. The other question is my suggestion would be to actually add some code documentation to the execute method and describe all possible parameters, because you did a great job
here.
Yeah, because it's or not execute in that way. It should be like the initializer, right? Because it's because you did a great job explaining me all the different ways of changing contact IDs and email. I wasn't aware you cannot replace emails right now, so maybe it could be useful to highlight.
Yeah. No, I see exactly where you're coming from. I wonder how I can do it in a nice, succinct way without too much waffle, sort of thing.
And again, by just reading the code, I was surprised that we are doing the subtraction of contact IDs, but not like the intersection, right, of contact IDs, but not the emails. So it's maybe
gotcha. Okay, so I'll just write something real quick while you guys are looking.
Maybe it's totally obvious for everyone else, but
no. I think this is all really, really valuable, and that's I do appreciate it. It's me trying to get this down into something that's clear, concise, and sort of So I'll just type something real quick. I'll drop it in the chat, and we'll see if it looks any good.
For some reason, I'm very good at pattern matching, and like even without understanding the intent. So my pattern match like spotted, okay, there's something different, not odd or wrong, but different from why is it different? That's why I'm asking the questions.
So I think it's probably fine in this instance, as long as we make sure we try and update the comments if and when. But like what I was going to say is, like, through GraphQL we can do this, through quick actions we can do this, and then sort of explain a little bit more around that. But I guess we just got to be careful that if we change any of that, that the comments get updated to match.
Yeah, that's maybe I wouldn't try to explain who uses it, but like what, or best would
I
be
suppose that's not important.
To
no, you're right. I could just say that at the moment we can add, remove, or replace contacts by ID, and when replacing them it's necessary to do this, but at the moment we can only add or remove by email, so it's not necessary to do this.
Yeah, or maybe even the last sentence would be sufficient, saying replacing emails is not supported yet. That's why we don't need to calculate. Like,
amazing. That sums it up perfectly.
And it'll be recorded, so you can go back and watch it and get it written down.
Oh God, then I have to listen to my own voice.
I don't do that usually, so not to your voice, to my voice as well. Okay, but again, sorry for derailing.
No,
that's okay. I guess, was there anything, and we're coming on the top of the hour, is there any spots that you're very interested in looking at besides what we've covered already? Because I feel like we didn't get through all of the MR, but yeah, I feel like an MR that's got this many files in it, it would take me a little bit of time to review.
So I suspect that that's where the meat is in the service, really. I don't have, I'm sure I should have the time in the corner of the screen. I don't know if you want to just jump into each other file and just see how, like, clearly the translations we're not interested in.
Yeah, I know you mentioned this project. I don't know if we have a chance to look at this, but I think
I've undone that.
Oh, you undid it. Okay.
But yeah, that's, if we had more time, I would love to talk about that, because I'm really confused by this, and I'll be a good citizen. I'll raise an issue, or I'll drop it in Slack and see if anyone's already looked at it and then raise an issue.
Okay.
Project already seems available in certain contexts in this file, but not throughout the entire file. And my brain can't comprehend how or why that is happening. And when I create this definition here, it causes some issues. So I've just reverted it for now to make life easy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I fully agree. I also stumbled across quick actions, or the DSL syntax, or actually the mixed syntax of DSL and defining method in the quick actions, sometimes also confusing. And I also lost a couple of times like the scope of, or I wasn't sure in which scope am right now. So for example, for me, it's really difficult or strange to see like a DSL syntax, like for example, commands remove contacts. But later you see like add updates in line 3 or 5, or using an instance variable, accessing the instance variable. It doesn't compute in my brain, because DSL is another layer of abstraction, a higher layer of abstraction or definition. And an instance variable is very implementation detail-y, and so it's it always confuses me, but I haven't got the time to wrap these things up in my brain and to create an issue or even start working on a replacement. So I'm just here to complain. And I feel you.
So I'm just, sorry, my brain can't multitask, so I'm just typing. I'm going to tag you.
One last question I had was about the actual parameters to the service. They are called add CRM contact emails, and the word CRM is always there. Do we need to distinguish, like, or do we need to have the extra word CRM to every parameter of the service? Because looking at this, so the word CRM is already contained in the service, so not sure if we should add it to every parameter. So I'm fine with contact. So add contact emails. I think it's fine. One could argue even add emails could be okay, but I'm fine with using the contact emails prefix. It's the same for the contact IDs. I think it's add CRM contact IDs, right? When you look into
I think it's following the pattern that's established in the existing code.
Are you both happy if I was, because looking at it now in its context, I think you're right. I was initially, I think, looking at it, and I know that everywhere where I refer to this stuff, it's really important that I prefix it with CRM, because although we don't have any contacts in any other contexts at the moment, there might be going forwards. So I've kind of been made asked to make sure that I do kind of classify or specify, or whatever you want to call it. But you're right, because we're in the set CRM contact service, I think just add emails, add IDs, remove emails, remove IDs. The only one that would be a bit harder is, I think I could change CRM contact IDs to just set IDs or replace IDs or something like that.
yeah, I would
I
actually
really
try
like
to
the
look.
replace IDs because that's like really clear about what that's being used for.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And
initial
by,
look at this, that's a really good comment, Peter. My initial look at this is like, I like it when things are same. And so this is only adding to things that already have CRM, so that necessarily wouldn't have like jumped out at me. But it's a good comment.
and this is obviously non-blocking, so it's I would create a follow-up if at all. You could also argue and say, okay, I don't want to change. I would be fine with that. So it's kind of nitpick for me because
No,
I can
well, I've
pattern
clearly
matching.
got more work to do on this, so it's as easy for me to tidy this up now as it is at any point. So no, I appreciate it, and that's why again I know async world and all that, but these are really valuable sessions for me because it sort of not only gives me the feedback, I can start applying it. I can ask you, how about this, how about that, and got quite a strong way forward to crack on this evening. Have you just got a few more? I'm just writing the Slack message, so just make sure you guys that makes sense. If you've got just a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. I already put something into Slack, so I basically copy pasted the Zoom chat.
Do you put it? Is it a channel I'm likely to have access to out of interest?
Yeah, right. I keep forgetting. Sorry.
So where did you put it out of interest, Peter?
It's in the pairing backend pairs.
Backend pairs, okay.
Sorry.
Would you? I don't know what the best way to do. I tell you what, if I share in the chat here real quick what I'd started to type, and if you see if it looks vaguely like what you were asking, then I'm happy, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I can try to retype it.
No, I mean, yeah, either share across or like, you know, there's no clever way of overcoming a lack of access, unfortunately.
Well, I think this question is generic enough to be asked in the backend channel, which you don't have access to as well, right?
I do have access to the generic backend channel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this could be an action a question being asked in this channel, so it's not too specific in the backend. I can share your message in the backend pairs to crosslink and so on.
So do you want me to post that message in backend?
Yeah, sure. It's
awesome.
I think it's a relevant
I'll just pop it in there for now. Okay, brilliant. I think that's really helpful. So I'm just going to remind myself where we got. So put the comment about maybe just making the parameters a little bit more succinct. The error messages, I think I'll probably keep them as, the message, not necessarily error. Keep them as an array for the time being, but definitely raise an issue or try and find an existing issue about it and like work out, you know, is it good practice, bad practice? How should we move forward with that? Mm-hmm. That I've reverted and we've started a discussion for it. So that's awesome. I need to add some more specs.
And I think if the specs pass, after removing that project, then you're probably fine. I didn't look into the failures in detail.
And then the little comment I was adding as well, replacing contacts by email is not currently supported. Did I need to elaborate a little bit on why I've put that comment in there, hence why we're not determining changes or something like that, or is that sufficient, do you think?
Now having the context, for me it would be sufficient, but we will try. We will see how the reviewers will handle this comment. So
okay, brilliant. I will push something up. I'll tag you. Terry, is there anything? Will you like later on today look for any more of this, or do you think that's you've kind of done everything you need to do really anyway? But once I've finished, I'll pass it back to you for kind of a more formal / official approval.
Yeah, I'm happy to get another review through, and then I'd probably pass it to a maintainer afterwards because I like having the 2 review process, and I don't mind doing the initial review. I will say, depending on when you get it to me, I'm probably going to stop taking reviews sometime. Hold on. What date is it today? Sometime around the 22nd. I will not.
It'll be
doing
tonight. I'm
reviews.
sure it'll be
Okay.
tonight.
Today, this week is fine.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And look forward to speaking
Thank
to you
you.
later in the week.
Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Likewise, bye.